Anyone who might be watching this, I am Giovanni and welcome back or welcome to this video if it's your first time or maybe you've been sticking around. Well, for this time around, I'll be showcasing the photos from the rest of my February 2024 saga where I went to, Flensburg, Hamburg, Berlin, and then to Prague. In this time around, I'll be showcasing the photos from Berlin and Prague. And also in regards to Prague, I've been there also in October 2024, which will also be shown. Well, to start this off, I went to the Historical Museum of Germany, but the main exhibition was closed, so I couldn't see that, but there was some temporary exhibitions shown. One was about German history and, alternative history about what could happen instead of what really happened. And there was another exhibition that I didn't go to, so I don't really remember what it was about. But in regards to the one I did go to, to start this off, here is a statue of Germania, the personification of the idea of Germany. Germany wasn't a country as such before the 19th century, and it was more so a bunch of city-states, basically like modern-day Italy. So yeah, but here's the personification of Germania. Here's a coin about something that actually, there was a guide within the museum that was, guiding a school or something, and I just tagged along because why not? So she did explain a bit about what are all these things. And this is a coin from something that was about to happen. Frederick Wilhelm IV was about to be coronated the King of Prussia, like it said here in the coin, but at the last minute it didn't happen because the people who wanted to coronate him were just regular people instead of like high class people and whatnot. So yeah, but it was so close to happening that there's even coins and shit and stuff about it. So yeah, here's a Prussian helmet. This one is very typical, and here's a bit of debate about whether or not it should be part of the German identity. I think it was more or less about. And then I went outside of the museum, of the National Museum, but there was also a bit about, East Germany and the whole Berlin Wall. I'll get a bit into that later because I also went to the Stasi headquarters. That was a bit bizarre. But basically the part about East Germany in specific, there was also a bit about World War II. But I think it was a bit more interesting about the bit about East Germany. And in regards to, how it collapsed, there was a bit of an exhibition, so to say, that it was kind of contrasting it to what happened in China, in Tiananmen Square in 1989, instead of what happened. So it was contrasting it a bit and such. And yeah. But, either way, here's the Brandenburg Gate. This was also a very, very known landmark from the Cold War because here was the main border between East and West Berlin. Like here was the Brandenburg Gate, and back in the Cold War days, it was basically a no man's zone because it was just in between East and West Germany. But nowadays that has changed quite a bit. Nowadays you can just fly and go around it and look at it, how beautiful it is and such. Like it can be seen here. But if you look at pictures from back then, that was quite different. But yeah, here it is, and here's a bit. I think it's constellations, more or less, or like the horoscope. That's also here in the Brandenburg Gate. And here's from the back of it. And then I went to the Stasi headquarters within, well, what was East Berlin. And yeah, you can just go inside there nowadays. Nowadays it's pretty much a museum and such. And there's also right at the side of it also the Stasi, archives, so to say, where you can see if you were a citizen of the GDR, what the hell they've written about you. But yeah, this is a caravan in which they kidnapped you. Yeah. Then here's also the reception. Very, very communist. Yeah, hooray, I guess. Kind of ugly. And yeah, here's the exhibitions inside. The main reason I went to this, it was because, rather, so to say, for research, for projects I want to do, creative projects I want to do in the future. It's just that I really haven't gotten the motivation to do so, unfortunately, as of reasons. And I don't know. I hope I get it. That would be nice. Because I do really want to do something creative about it, but I also do want to speak about it with people about it and so on. So maybe at least by doing this, it can get a bit more outreach. But anyways, here's the coat of arms of both East Germany and of course, the USSR. In regards to the coat of arms of Germany, East Germany, it's a bit different from the standard coat of arms of communist countries. That is basically the hose and sickle. In regards to East Germany, it's a hammer, or hammer or sickle. It's a hammer and a compass, symbolizing, the workers and I suppose the creative, so to say. I don't really know, but yeah. But yeah, basically that. And here's one of these murals that are really quite known throughout the former communist bloc. These were very, very quite common. And yeah, they were basically art of being propaganda, because basically everything, or almost everything within these communist countries, everything was basically propaganda. It's a bit sickening. And yeah, here's this mural. Yeah. And here's a bit, it's in German, even though here's the part in English, but it's a bit small, so I can't really read it. But here's a bit about how politically East Germany worked. It was all ruled by the SED. In principle, there was also a social democratic party, but it was dismantled by the SED. So the SED was the only party that could govern, basically. And yeah, that has and kind of still has been prevailing throughout these types of countries. And here's a bit about how the SED controls, the Politburo and its central committee and so on. And yeah, basically all of this. Yeah. Here's a propaganda thing. To be careful about the CIA, because they can be controlling you with their metal bands, and yeah, be careful, but don't worry, we're fine. Yeah, and this is from the Prague Spring, 1968. where the citizens of Czechoslovakia were protesting against. They wanted more reforms to be for the country to be more liberal, so to say. And what happened is that the whole Warsaw Pact went in with their tanks and went against it. So yeah, that's basically the only use the Warsaw Pact has really had to just crumble demonstrations and such from the inside of it. 10 out of 10. And yeah, well, continuing to what there's in the picture, it's a Czechoslovak flag. Nowadays it's the Czech flag. And it was found within an apartment of a 15-year-old, and the Stasi found it. And yeah, then he was interrogated. So, yeah, as can be read here. Yeah. And then, to say the least, the Stasi was a very, very paranoid organization. The whole GDR from the upside was very, very paranoid, and this has really also happened within every single socialist, communist, whatever you want to say, country. They all have had these secret polices that have been very, very paranoid, and some have been more infamous than others. But amongst them, the Stasi, without doubt, is one of the most infamous ones. And here's what I think in like the 2000s, someone that moved into what was prior East Germany found within the walls part of radio in order to record you through radio within the walls. So that goes to say, about to which extent this whole organization went through. Here's an old elevator, and I couldn't use it, but basically there's no doors, and the whole time they just circle around, so you just have to hop in when it's there. So yeah. And here's some of the within the headquarters themselves, the offices, and it's really just quite bizarre to think about what was this place before. It's really, really just bizarre for me to think what was really happening inside here, and that you nowadays can just go here without any issues and such. But back in those days, it was basically the whole head for this very, very paranoid organization that went basically against everyone, more or less. And yeah, here's for more of the headquarters. Yeah, there's also a thing that within the 50s and 60s, it was very common to use this whole wooden collar. So that's also kind of how I personally can identify when these things were constructed. I think this was from the 60s, but until its collapse, it has really, really never been renovated. And this can also be said about about the entirety of all of these communist countries, that after the first industrialization, so to say, they just really, really never go past that. They just seem to always get stuck in time. And it's just something really bizarre that I personally have noticed. And yeah, more about from these headquarters. There were also, the people here were also elites. And yeah, they only really intermingled with other elites. So there was, I can remember from the information desks here that there may be some inbreeding there. Really quite ironic. And yeah, more or less. This room is also where Erich Honecker, who was the head of the SED, the governing party of East Germany, slept. He just slept here within the Stasi headquarters, and it was basically his room. So he basically just slept in here, and yeah, quite bizarre to just go through this nowadays. Just fine, and just really remember what was this really in the past. Really quite bizarre. This is from the youth organization, and there was the Young Pioneers. There was basically the youth organization of East Germany, and the kids wore all these uniforms, and yeah, it was of course also, well, what they taught you was basically also just propaganda, like can be seen a bit here within the books, and yeah, basically everything was propaganda to at least some extent. Like yeah, here you also have a Socialism Your World book, very important. And here is the Berlin TV tower. That's also, well, it's a very known landmark nowadays of Berlin. It's still there, but nowadays it really isn't a TV tower. It's rather a rotating restaurant that goes 365 degrees, and you can get up there, and yeah, it's very known. So it's still there, but back in those days, it was a TV tower, and it was also constructed to be so high, so tall, to really show the virtues of socialism and whatnot. And here is a bit more shit from East Germany, from the secret police, or the yeah. And here's also a camera. Well, this machine they used to examine letters that were going through East Germany, to see if there was some secret writing and such, because they were just really so paranoid that they just also went through all the letters and such. So yeah, so that they could be sure that you weren't saying anything that wasn't allowed. They also went through apartments and such to examine if you had anything bad or that they wouldn't allow. And they took photos before it so that they could also reorganize it so that you didn't notice that they've been in your apartment. And they also made copies of your keys and such, so that you really didn't notice that yeah, the Stasi has been within your apartment and such. They really had some really bad tactics, so to say. They also had some mental tactics, so to say. Here's a map of the headquarters, and here's the entrance again. But yeah, the Stasi had also some. They have a specific name for it, but I just don't remember it. But they also dealt with their enemies psychologically, and basically they could spread some bad things about you in the work with your friends and such, so that they could isolate you and that you could just be alone. And they actually, from what I know, and back in those days, they just really didn't know to just which extreme extent the Stasi went through. Yeah, of course they did know about the Stasi and some of their operations, but they just didn't know about the whole extent of it. And especially about also these psychological dealings they did. Like, I also remember there was a little documentary within the building about a woman. Well, there was two that I do remember, about a woman that was suspicious that one day she got her bike punctured and such, and she thought it was the Stasi, but her friends didn't believe it. And it just shows that actually, yes, it was, but they just really didn't know to which extent they were. And it's also these things that happen within all these sorts of governments, that when they're there, you just really don't know the whole picture about it. It's only when they're gone you really know about it, because of all the classified documents and information that they actively hide from you. And it's just really weird. And there's also another one about another woman that um, she got to know after the collapse of the East German government. She went to the Stasi archives and she went through her archives. And then she got to know that her husband was a Stasi member, and she didn't know. And man, I just really cannot really think about how it must have been to just have that revelation. Kind of weird. Yeah, here's the building, very very commie block. Yeah, as you can see here. And yeah, to also close this whole East Germany thing off, I then went also to the DDR museum, to the East German museum that's also in Berlin, to just close it off. And yeah, some of the most, well, I think the most infamous landmark and the most infamous symbol of the Cold War is definitely the Wall of Berlin, that they call the anti-fascist protection wall, whatever that means. But yeah, everyone knew it was to be a prison, basically, as this whole thing was made so that people from East Berlin couldn't escape to West Berlin, because there was a loophole there. And in the 60s, they made this whole wall to keep them in. So yeah, very free. And here is the car of the DDR, the Trabant. It was the only car they had in East Germany. And yeah, it looked like this throughout the whole of it. That's also what I'm saying, that basically past their first industrialization, first renovations, they barely really innovated at all. They just stayed stagnant in many things, because there really wasn't this incentive to innovate and such, since everything belonged to the government. So yeah, this was the only car you could get in East Germany, and to get it there was you could wait perfectly 10 years to get your Taiwan car, and it was this one. Here's another of these mosaics that were really popular throughout the former communist world, of the East German coat of arms. And here is a Place de la République. This was before, right at the side of the Berlin Cathedral. Nowadays it isn't there anymore, thankfully. It was after World War II. There was a palace right at the side of the Berlin Cathedral. But after World War II, it was completely destroyed, and the Soviets, as it was occupied by the Soviets, just decided to scramble it. And in the 70s, the Place de la République was built. It was basically government offices, and also there was also some recreational stuffs and so on there. But after the collapse of the DDR, it isn't there anymore. Well, it completely vanished finally in, I think, 2008. And yeah, nowadays they have reconstructed the palace that was previously there, and I definitely prefer it, because come on, this building is just kind of ugly. So yeah, here's a kindergarten room, a recreation of a kindergarten room within the DDR. Of course, the propaganda starts as early as possible, at a very early age. So of course, it also started within the kindergarten and all of that. Yeah. here's an interrogation room. They could they could just apprehend you for days, even if you didn't answer with the answers they wanted to hear, and they wouldn't let you sleep or anything. Like, they would constantly ask you and so on. So yeah, very nice tactics. Here's a prison room. Yeah, that was afterwards. And of course, ironically enough, in every one of these communist countries, there has been an elite class. In East Germany, there was, of course, an elite class for, the politically involved people. And they didn't go with Trabants. No, no, no. They had a Swedish car, a Volvo, because Sweden in the Cold War was a neutral country, so it was a bit more acceptable, because of course they also could get foreign products and such that were impossible to get within these countries. So they just had some extra benefits that weren't available to the normal citizens of the country, which is quite ironic, because the whole idea behind socialism, communism, is that everyone is equal. But I guess there's someones that got a bit more of that. So yeah, here's some of the foreign products that they could get, but the normal people couldn't. And here's the Stasi room within your commie blog. Here's a portrait of Erich Honecker. And yeah, they basically heard every one of your conversations and that from up there, so they could be sure that you weren't saying anything bad about the state and such, because they were just really paranoid. And it's just really weird to think about how was life within these sorts of countries with this system. It just really feels very alien to think about. And I also think it's kind of the same for people around my age that are from countries that unfortunately have been under this type of system before. Just really, yeah, other people telling about how it was and such, it just feels really alien, because it's just really different from what is there now and how I'm used to it, I guess. But yeah, here's a living room for the normal East German citizen. Here's the kitchen of the normal East German citizen. And at least they did keep the tiles and, the wall paintings. I really do wish that there was still a thing instead of just being white walls. But yeah. Here was a room within your typical commie block within East Germany. With very nice sights from the outside. And yeah, this is a kid's room. And here is also, again, this uniform for the Young Pioneer Association, of course. Also being quite propaganda. Yeah, here's the living room again. And yeah, more sights from the outside. Very beautiful. There you can, not depressing. And yeah, that was basically it for the GDR museum. Again, it was more so not really for my own pleasure. It was more so for, so to say, investigation for, projects I want to do, and that I hope I can get to doing if I get some more motivation and such, because I do really want to express myself creatively and take it some. And the purpose behind taking all of these photos is also for that, because I do also really want to get inspiration from all of these places that I've been to and so on, also for worlds I want to make and such. So yeah, I hope so. But anyways, this is from the next day. Here's a beautiful door with a kitty. And yeah, here's where the Place de la République was before. Nowadays, Again, as I said before, they've been reconstructing the former palace that was here before. And yeah, at least from the outside, I think it's quite accurate. I'm not sure. But I don't think it's really a palace by the inside. I'm not sure. I didn't go inside, unfortunately. But it's quite beautiful. I definitely do prefer this than the Palais de la République, definitely. This Imperial Eagle. Really beautiful, all these decorations. Definitely. More of the decorations from here. Definitely do like the eagles here. It is. So yeah. And here is the Berlin Cathedral that's right at the side of the palace. I did go inside here, and yeah, be careful because around here, at least during my visit there was a bunch of people, gypsy people, like Roma people, that are scamming people with some scam about deaf kids thing, and they want you to give money for them. And yeah, it's a scam, and they also try to steal my phone. I did catch wind of it, so yeah, fortunately I still have it, but it wasn't quite pleasant. They were also just really annoying, and they were teenagers. So what the hell, man? Do something else than just try to scam people. It's also because of these people that the Roma people have just gotten this very bad reputation, so to say. And it's really quite unfortunate. So I just really don't really know what more to say. But here's the outside of the Berlin Cathedral. And here's me going inside of it. Here's some Jesus. Here's, well, the insides of the cathedral. Here's with some figures of the history of Germany, I think. Isn't this Martin Luther? Yeah, it is. Yeah, here's some figures of German history, some important figures. I do really like when there's some local saints and figures and such within these cathedrals instead of your, yeah, I know you love Jesus, but I want to see something more unique that I haven't seen before. So I do like it when there's some local saints or important people, or even something relating to the before Christianism or Christianity. So yeah, here's the altar. Very golden, very Jesus. Yeah, here's a door. I don't. It says something, but I do really like the decoration here, like this type of grotesque. Here's some more figures of German history, really cool. And here's the, well, I don't really know what it's called, but the upper part of the cathedral. And yeah. And here's the beautiful old wooden organ that's also huge. These things are very huge, but I do also really like their melodies, as said in the video before. Really beautiful. And here's some royal tombs that, of course, just for the tombs alone, this is worth more than your life. But they're really beautiful, the tombs themselves, very decorated. Just kind of weird how much effort they put into them. Like, yeah, like here. And here are some views from the upper part, well, from the tower of the Berlin Cathedral. Here are some views you can get from it. Here's the TV tower, as said before. It's huge, and it was before a symbolism for how great socialism is. But yeah, nowadays it's a rotating restaurant, and you can get in there. I didn't go inside, but yeah, it's there. It's where Alexanderplatz is. So yeah, more views. Also, where the cathedral is located is called Museum Island, because there's a bunch of museums there, like this one. This one can be seen here. There's a bunch of museums. I didn't go to them, but yeah. So there's a bunch of museums, and here's again, do really like this turquoise color. And here's another museum right here. And yeah, more perspectives from the insides of the casino. You're beautiful. And yeah, here's the outsides from the casino now with less gray weather for a for a little minute. But yeah, it really is beautiful. And again, I just really like this color that over time happens to these sort of structures that are made out of bronze. I do really like this color. I do really like it. It's a really beautiful color. And yeah, then there's also Berlin is very known. It's very known for the Cold War, as can be kind of seen here. Like it, well, the whole Berlin Wall was basically the symbol of the Cold War. And yeah, there's a lot related to the Cold War in Berlin. Not my favorite thing, to be honest. Kind of depressing by one part. Not my favorite part, and not my favorite thing to really get into, even though I'm curious about that time, because especially for the Eastern Bloc, it just sounds really alien and such. But within Berlin, there's a whole street that's basically dedicated to the Cold War. Yeah, here's also a museum dedicated to that ugly ass wall, to the Berlin Wall. And here's a replica of the US Charlie checkpoint. This isn't the real one. The real one is inside the Wall Museum. But here's a replica of it. From my knowledge, it was barely even used at all. So yeah, I think the checkpoint Bravo was rather used. I'm not sure. I don't really remember. But yeah, then I went to the Charlottenburg Palace. I think definitely this is my favorite place within the ones I've seen in Berlin. This is a royal palace, and I did get inside of it. It's really beautiful. Look at this statue of King, I don't know, King Frederick the Fifth. I don't really know, sorry. And yeah, but it's really beautiful. So here's from the inside of it, and the art made to the walls and to the ceilings are really something else. Really beautiful. Like here. And here's also these swans again. Normally there's like a crown to symbolize also royalty and such. But yeah, here's a chimney. There's also some that have this 3D effect, like this one right here. I do really like this one, as if the smoke from the chimney is going up here. It's really quite interesting how it's made. Really curious, even though unfortunately the paintings from the walls haven't survived over time, especially after World War II. It's really sad how much has been lost due to World War II. Really unfortunate. But yeah, here's some beautiful ceiling paintings. Here's a hall. I do like the color of these sorts of old halls and rooms. Here's gay painting of kings. It looks really gay. I'm sorry, but it does. Here's some tapestries. Really beautiful. More tapestries. Is she giving birth here? Perhaps. Here's a halal. Yeah, here's an Ottoman. I don't know if Sultan or something like that. But I do really like the creatures here, down here. There's a dragon, there's a lion, there's a boar. Cool. More tapestries of, I guess, rich people of the 1700s enjoying their courtly life within the Baroque gardens or whatnot. Yeah, really quite interesting. And here's also a piano or a harpsichord. I actually don't really know what it is. Sorry. That has some Chinese motifs. Further along the way, there's also a whole room dedicated to Chinese porcelain. As said before, at least within my prior video, I think porcelain, especially Chinese porcelain, was very, very valued within the elite circles of Europe. And yeah, here can really be seen, can really be appreciated how much it was really valued by these courtly people. But here's some more tapestries of these elite people. I do really like these sort of tapestries, really beautiful. Yeah, of the daily lives and such. And I don't really know if this is this is another room. Also really beautiful. Like here you have the heavens above you. I do really like these sort of depictions of skies and such. Really beautiful and really expressive, so to say. And here's also the skies getting a bit out. And here there's also people exercising different types of arts, astrology, and so on. Music, such. Let me see. There. There's also this room, really beautiful, especially the portrait of this king. I don't really know the names of every single one of these kings. And here's some even more beautiful ceiling paintings of Greek, Greek inspiration. There's been a lot of paintings and ceiling paintings and such of Roman and Greek inspiration. And yeah, here's an example of it. Here's also with the constellations and the horoscope right in the center here. Like here you can see the horoscope and such, constellations. And here's some, daily lives of people and such. Really quite beautiful to look at these details. Really interesting. Then we have the the exotic room, because in these sorts of palaces and castles of people of elite status, so to say, and many of them, they have an entire room just dedicated to arts and crafts and whatnot, that are from exotic places like Asia, Africa, and such. And here's a perfect example of how much Chinese porcelain was appreciated within the elite circles of Europe in the past. Like here they've made it like a whole exhibition about these Chinese porcelain, because again, the Chinese had a monopoly over this porcelain, and it was very, very sought after because no one really knew how they made it, but it was more refined than basically anything else. And so it was very sought after within the elite circles of Europe, and so they traded it a lot and had a monopoly over it until like 1791, where it was decoded how they made it and such. But here's also some Chinese arts within this porcelain and such. Really quite cool to, again, appreciate the details. Like, I also really like it here. Within all this porcelain and such, there's also some animals. And also some, figures of people of China. Asia. But I do also really like the creatures here, the dragons. And here's also some more figures of the Chinese people. Here's some falcons. I do really like the animals here depicted, and I definitely think this is the most perfect example of these sort of exotic rooms, that were really prevalent within castles and such of elite people, because here it can really be seen how much it was appreciated. And here's also the ceiling painting of this whole exotic room. I do really like the figure here of the elk. Just, yeah, it's a figure, so it's 3D. And here's, well, again, the ceiling has some Greek inspirations and such. Quite interesting. And yeah, more perspectives from the exotic room. And yeah, here it is. Of the heavens, of Pegasus, of, well, yeah, of the great heavens, and yeah, this whole Greek mythology thing. It's really beautiful. Really, really beautiful. Definitely. So, yeah, I don't know what's happening here exactly. Yeah, more perspectives from this room. Really beautiful again. Here it is. And here's also more of the ceilings. Yeah, of the great heavens. And yeah, here's Frederick the Seventh, I think. Again, I'm not too sure of it. But yeah, here he is. And here's the chapel of the Charlottenburg Palace. Definitely one of my favorite rooms of this whole place. Really, really beautiful. Like, you can definitely feel powerful when the heavens are coronating you and God is choosing you. Here's a little organ. Unfortunately, there's not much space for like these huge wooden organs, so there's not one of them. But here you can really feel powerful when God is choosing you and you're getting coronated by God himself, and yeah, such. Like here, here, if you sit here, you definitely feel powerful. When yeah, the angels from the heavens themselves are getting down to you and coronating you the king. Just yeah, very empowering. And here's also the German Empire eagle, I think. Like here, I just really like the pictures of animals throughout art. And here's also some depictions of, well, different scenes of, well, daily life and such. But yeah, here's God choosing you as the king. And here's also another depiction of the skies and the heavens. Again, really beautiful. And here's more perspectives of the beautiful chapel of Charlottenburg. And here's a paintings room with some interesting paintings of war and women. Yeah, still interesting. And here's, well, from the staircase of the palace. Here's also some more depictions of the skies themselves. Quite interesting. And here's also some sculptures of the people holding this whole palace for you. Yeah, quite interesting. Like here it is. Like they're strong. And here's again one of these Prussian helmets that are very known from, well, Prussia. So yeah, here's a vase, a huge vase of a military scene, I think it is. It seems so, because, well, Prussia was a very militarized society. So there's that. Here's a portrait from the 19th century of a medieval scene, and I do really like the style it is made in, like the textures of it and the lighting. I do really like it. Really, really beautiful. And yeah, again, the people of the 19th century were really quite romanticizing, like how it was in the Middle Ages. Like they were so chivalrous and so on in the Middle Ages and whatnot. So that's also why there's the pictures of knights and such from the Middle Ages, and many of the arts from this time. But I do really like this painting. Really beautiful. Then we have a a medieval model of a French helmet. And like this is a very stereotypical one that is usually in like cartoons and such, of knights and such. It's quite interesting because I haven't seen that many of like this type. So yeah, really quite interesting. Then we have a portrait of elite people praying from the Renaissance and such. And yeah, here's some royal stuff. And here's some porcelain with the Prussian coat of arms ingrained into it. I do really like the art style of it. Really cool, really beautiful, and quite interesting nonetheless. I do really like these eagles. Really cool. But yeah, in regards to this sort of porcelain, porcelain itself was more used as like decorations and such. And yeah, I mean it's really beautiful. But yeah, it was more so than using it for practical things. It was rather used for decorations. So there's that for elite people. But here's a tableware of the dining within the royal people. All of it is made of silver and whatnot, and yeah, very classy. The entirety is silverware, tableware, very classy. So to say, yeah, they were definitely dining in high regards, of course. And yeah, I don't actually know what this is. I don't really know what it is exactly, but yeah, here's a thing. I don't really know what it is exactly. If someone knows, tell me. Here's some more porcelain for the Prussian or German Empire. And here's this clusterfuck of coats of arms from the different city-states and such within Prussia. So yeah, more classy silver tableware for the royals in the past. They were very decorated with some very royal symbols such as the lions and of course the royal eagle and fighting scenes between falcons and such. Really neat details. And here's for the chimneys. There was there was a factory that was very known for making some really cool chimney plates, so to say. And here's one of a battle scene, of course. And here's Frederick the Seventh, a portrait of him. I do really like the portrait itself. But yeah, here's him in his splendor and whatnot. Here's Felix the Seventh. And yeah, here's also some views of the gardens of the palace from here. Well, they can't be seen that extremely well, but they're there. And here's the Alexanderplatz. From my knowledge, the metro station that was here during the Cold War or during the Berlin Wall era, it was a ghost station, and within what was East Berlin there was like 2-3 ghost stations, because Berlin has never been planned like how it was after World War II. Like it has never been split like that before, so the metro still existed before World War II. So what they did was making some of these stations just be ghost stations and closing them off and such. But yeah, at least nowadays it isn't like that. But here's that symbol from that Socialism Your World book. I think this is a world clock where you can see what time it is in different parts of the world. Quite interesting, I guess. And yeah, here's the Alexanderplatz as can be seen here. And here's the TV tower. And here's a synagogue of Berlin. Unfortunately, it was closed, so I couldn't get inside. But quite interesting to see it. I'm quite interested in these type of synagogues. It should be beautiful. And here's the Amferman. It's a figure very, very known from Berlin. There's even entire souvenir shops of just this figure. Like the entirety of their souvenirs are just dedicated to this figure. And it was actually something that came from East Germany, but at least it isn't really that propagandistic. So it has remained and it has charmed people. So it has just been remaining there, and yeah, even for, well, if there's souvenir shops just dedicated to this figure, then even foreigners are charmed by him. So that's cool. And yeah, this is now from Prague. Now I went to Prague, and yeah. And then I went to Prague. There's a train connection in Berlin to Prague, so I took that, and it takes around almost 5 hours, I think. So yeah, there was that, and then I went into Prague, and now I'm gonna show the pictures from Prague. The first thing I went into was like a little story museum of Prague. Not the biggest thing ever, but it was rather just to see something when I arrived there, because the museums there were closed for the most part, so I didn't really have any time to really see anything during that pretty much night I first went there. But there was this museum, and here's some medieval torture instruments. I've also noticed that in a lot, or in pretty much every at least big European city, there has to be a torture museum. Like people in the past, and especially like in the Middle Ages and stuff, they were really bored. They came up with some really um, I don't know, ideas about how to torture people as much as possible. And here's also an executioner. So yeah, here's more torture instruments, like this one that they pulled. This one was going into your ass, and yeah, very nice. Really, really creative methods of torture. And yeah, this is from the communist times, because of course, well, then Czechoslovakia was within, unfortunately, the Eastern Bloc. But yeah, at least that's now gone. And but this is rather a room, or representing a room from the the secret police of Czechoslovakia, because again, there was pretty much a secret police for every one of these, authoritarian states. Also not communist, but also a dictatorship. So of course there was also one for Czechoslovakia, and yeah. There was also a little documentary about the Prague Spring, where the tanks from almost every Warsaw Pact country went into Prague to stop the protests, as a very good cooperative military association, so to say. But yeah, then into the 90s, when this whole thing, fortunately, but quite quickly, went down. And yeah, in the 90s, people from Prague and Czechoslovakia, and the former Eastern Bloc in general, everyone were really engulfed into these things that were previously prohibited, like all these Western products and movies and shows and whatnot. So they were really, really engulfing into that. And now, as they could finally just be free to do that. And yeah, and here's also a panel with Václav Havel, who was the first, who was the first democratically elected president of then Czechoslovakia, then the Czech Republic. From what I could understand, during the communist times, he was actually imprisoned by the secret police, but then afterwards he, became a head for the now democratic Czech Republic. So yeah. And here, in Prague, there's really a lot of Art Nouveau buildings and art and such, which I personally just really like. And yeah, here's a building as an example of the Art Nouveau era of Prague. There will be many others as well during this video, or the rest of it. But yeah, here's also some Art Nouveau art. I really like this type of art. Especially this one, it's just really nice. And yeah, then I went to the Decorations Museum of Prague. That was really a jewel just by the decorations of the museum itself. But the exhibitions were also really interesting. I went to the historic parts of the exhibitions, because I'm not that interested in like more modern stuff. So yeah, but as can be seen here, the decorations of the museum itself, the art of the insides of the museum are just really, really beautiful. I really just like the staircase and also the glass art here. Very, very beautiful. Like here, and also with the coats of arms, which is a white lion of, I don't know if it's only Bohemia or if it just encompasses the Czech Republic in general. But yeah. And here's some amulets that were to symbolize if you were, for example, a pilgrim with the shell or whatnot. But there's also some really, really weird amulets to signify that, yeah, you're a sinner or you've committed a crime, like whatever these are. So yeah. Then there's this funeral dress. I've never seen one like this one before. Very, let's say, gothic. But I like it. It's very, very goth. I've never seen one like this one precisely before. It's cool. I'm not gonna lie. Then there's some, old vases that I also just really like the arts of. Like these ones. Really beautiful with different coats of arms. Like here the the Habsburg Empire. And here is some, royal scenes, so to say, or some Jesus scenes. Yeah, but I just really like them. They're quite interesting, or hempins, but they're really cool. Here's some more perspective of them. I also really like this one, even though it seems like it's a man killing another. But besides that, the base itself is really cool. Then we have some more vases. This time some more ingrained ones, but also really cool. I think of, yeah, some scenes and such. Cool. Then here is a dagger, but I also just really like the decorations of many of these types of weapons from times before. They can really be beautiful, especially with the ivory and such and whatever is ingrained in them. It's really beautiful with all the animals and such. Like here with the deer and here with the dogs. Really cool. Then again, I've seen this sort of aquamano before, especially with the lion. I've seen this a lot. Like I think it has been there in Flensburg or Hamburg before, but I've seen it a bunch of times. But still, I like it. And here's also a tile with a griffin. Tiles was especially like um, more, well, tiles in general were also a symbol of status, especially like the ovens with the tiles. That's why they're also in quite a lot of like elites or castle houses and such. Here's a board game. I actually don't really know which board game this is, but it has some Greek motives, so it's cool, and also some flowers and such. Really beautiful again. Then we have this portrait. I actually don't really know what is happening here. It's supposed to be like winter personified, but I'm sorry, I don't really know which resemblance it specifically has to winter. This does seem like a father hating his son, like, yeah, fuck you, son. There we have a historic clock. Really interesting, these ones where you have the figure pointing to which time it is. Quite interesting. I don't know what this is exactly. It is something. Definitely something. Here's a very practical bench. It's a really beautiful bench, but I don't think it's really that practical. But I think it was rather just to showcase. But it's interesting with the shells and such, nonetheless. And here we also have another practical sofa. This with more algae and such, I think. And also with some impressionistic art. And yeah, here's more photos of, well, the insides of the museum itself. Really beautiful. And yeah, here's also a really, really beautiful room of the museum itself, of the interiors of the museum itself, also with some grotesques, which I just really, really like, especially when you can just look at the details and spot different creatures and such. And here's also in regards to more of the history of Prague, and here's also some dragons and such. I just really like looking at these types of grotesques. They're really beautiful, and I especially like spotting different animals and such. Really cool. Yeah, here's more perspectives of this room in specific. And here's, well, I think the founder of this museum, this guy. So yeah, congratulations to him. Really beautiful museum, definitely. And yeah, here's just some more perspectives of these grotesques. They're just, I like getting to see them. I've seen a bunch of them. Maybe I could do a video about these types of grotesques in specific. Like, I could. So if anyone wants to see that, well, tell me, I guess. But yeah, it's really beautiful. Yeah. And then there's also this lamp. Not my favorite type of lamp, but yeah, it's there. And yeah, more of the art of the museum itself. And here's some beautiful, beautiful stained glass art. I really also like these types of glass art. They're really beautiful. Definitely like here. And yeah. And then it's the upper part of the museum itself with some, well, art of the scenes of life in Prague in general. Definitely also something to behold, like here with the artisans and the craftsmen and yeah, all that. And yeah, more art of the museum itself. Really, really beautiful, like here with the stained glass. Definitely also really beautiful. I really also like the colors of them. Like the colors also just really, really resonate a lot. Here is also another of these staircases that are just really beautiful. Here I think with the other region, maybe Moravia of the Czech Republic. And yeah, more arts of the interiors of the museum itself with also this lamp. I don't know. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the, well, the Decoration Museum of Prague. Then afterwards, I went to, well, it also has to do with Art Nouveau, but rather Art Deco, which is from the 1920s, when actually the Czech Republic became, or well, Czechoslovakia became independent after the First World War, because before that they were part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So yeah, but here is, I went inside of this theater. It's really beautiful. It has a lot of this Art Deco art and such, which you will see in a moment, but just look at the outside of it. Also with some more coats of arms of, I think, different cities or such. I really like here the art, also really beautiful. And yeah, the arts within the museum itself also has to do a lot with this idea of, well, this newly founded state of Czechoslovakia, or well, Czech Republic, and yeah, because it was also there that they first gained their independence, and this whole nationalist movement really took off for both good and bad, let's say it that way. And yeah, just how beautiful it is. And here's also also a really beautiful gate here. Also something else. And yeah, then here is from the insides of this theater. Here's the theater itself, where there are some concerts and such. And Smetana is a, well, famous composer of the Czech Republic, so he is ingrained here from this era. And yeah, here are some decorations of the theater itself. Really beautiful. Like here it can't be seen, but yeah, it's a bit dark. And yeah, here is also a cafe of the theater itself. Really from the 1920s. I just really like the aesthetic of it, even though I prefer Art Nouveau than Art Deco, because Art Deco is more about rather shapes than actually like the art itself, so to say. But this one is really interesting. It really gives this 1920s vibe. I like it. Yeah, here is a bit more from the gate itself. Yeah, some interesting stuff from the gate. Really beautiful, also from like the Middle Ages and such. I just really like these gargoyles, and then there's also this this man just here, just sitting here for eternity, I guess. Really interesting, nonetheless. And yeah, here's some more halls or yeah, rooms of the theater. Here's with some, well, some heavenly girls, I guess. And here there's quite beautiful portraits of, I actually don't really know what exactly is happening here. To be precise, maybe it's something to do with like their pagan mythology and such. I'm not exactly sure if it's just a battle scene, which it kind of seems like. And here's also death itself. And here's also a wild woman. So yeah. I think this is my favorite room within this theater. Here's a bunch of, well, known heroes of the Czech Republic and such, and here's also, well, characters, yeah, of this nation. And yeah, here's also, well, also more of the ideas from the mythology and so on. I'm not entirely sure, but it's also real beautiful here with the different characters and such. And I think this is a character from well, Slavic mythology, I guess. I'm actually not entirely sure. And yeah, more characters from, or more famously known people from the Czech Republic. And yeah, here's the founder of this theater, I think. So yeah, kudos to him. And yeah, here's also the cafe, or well, the restaurant within the theater. It's also really interesting. I definitely like it. It also fits really with the aesthetic of the rest of the theater. Really beautiful. I also just really like this tile art. That's really beautiful. And yeah, definitely cool. Definitely looks really cool. The restaurant itself, definitely have to say that. And yeah, here's the gate that was there before. It definitely has gotten a lot black from the time passing, maybe from the industrial revolution, from all the coal and so on, and maybe also from World War II. I don't really know, but I'm definitely also glad that Prague has really survived well. It hasn't been too damaged during World War II, so that's definitely something I could appreciate a lot from Prague, and I definitely do love that because there's a lot of historic stuff within Prague that are just still standing there, and that's definitely something to behold. And yeah, here's some different coats of arms, even though it can't be seen that well due to, well, this just being really black, but it's cool. Definitely really cool, this medieval gate. Amazing. Then there's some more Art Nouveau houses and buildings and so on. I do really like the art of this one in specific. Here's also an antique shop. Fits as well. I do really like the art here. Really beautiful. Definitely something to appreciate. Then here's the old town hall of Prague. I went inside of it and it's also really cool. I also just really like the outside of it here with, again, different coats of arms. I'm not sure if it's maybe other towns and such, or if it's just elite families from those times, I guess. But yeah, I went inside of it, and here's the insides of it. First, there's it's a very little room with it, but it has a bunch of different mosaic arts from, well, relating to Prague itself and its history. Really beautiful. I definitely really like these mosaics. Really beautiful, definitely. I've already said that a lot, but it's just really something really incredibly beautiful to behold. Here's the coats of arms of Prague. And like I've said before in the previous video, again, it's some gates. It's the same case for a lot of other cities. It's a bit lame. I'm gonna be honest. And here's San Vincestas, who is a very well, you're gonna see his figure a lot throughout the Czech Republic. He is a very known saint in the Czech Republic, and yeah, here's some more perspectives of this room itself. Yeah, here's the founding of Prague, which according to legend was named Prague because there was a queen who, who found within that lake some workers who were working on a threshold. So the name of Prague comes from that name of threshold, like wooden work, as she found, or her envoys found these people working there, and according to this legend, they gave it the name and the place due to that, or something relating to that. So yeah, but I do really like the art itself from here. Do really give me also some comic book art vibes, but I really like it. Really, definitely cool. Yeah, here's also, well, I suppose this rather is portraying like the idea of this nation state itself. It seems like that. Also here with the tricolor flag of red, blue, and white, which was actually an idea by the Czechs to symbolize like the resistance and so on of the Slavic people from their foreign oppressors and such. So that's actually also why basically every Slavic country besides like Poland has these three colors within their flags. So yeah, really cool. Yeah, here's some princesses again, and yeah, and here's also some birds, some ravens, just really cool. And yeah, here's again the coat of arms of Prague. It's this gate with a knight's arm hanging out, not the most creative one. And here's this medieval room, definitely really beautiful with all the coats of arms again here. Yeah, unfortunately not the best lighting. But here's also one of these very elite stoves that they used before to symbolize wealth, because you didn't really speak about wealth, about how much money you had. You rather showed it because it was a kind of taboo to actually speak about, oh yeah, I have all this wealth. Just look at me. So they rather symbolized it by having these, for example, these type of ovens or stoves and such. And yeah, here's where some shit happened, some bureaucratic shit happened. So yeah, here's also the beautiful ceilings within this room, also with some different stuff like instruments, the birds, of course, armor, different characters from these times and such. Also, just really something cool to just look at. Like here. Yeah, and here's again the coat of arms of Prague. And here's another room that unfortunately, well, really hasn't survived, or at least not in its precisely original form. But here's a portrait from back in those times. There was also a time within Prague history that, yeah, this one reminds me of those times, because I actually think it was during these times that people, the citizens of Prague, if they didn't like a certain politician or such, they just threw them out of the window. So yeah, this happened during these times when they were dressed like this and such. And it's just kind of funny that they did that. Maybe it should be done again. I think this is San Vencistas again. Unfortunately, also here was some, well, what I call again medieval graffiti within the walls of this room, but there's not that many of them that survive to this day. Like, there's some here, but yeah, not really many, as can be seen there. Here's the chapel within the old town hall, also really beautiful. And here's some really good, well preserved medieval graffiti art that I call it like that, but I just really like it. Like here with different coats of arms and such, and this, yeah, that can be seen here. Some more of it. And yeah, also the ceiling itself also has some of this beautiful art, like here. I also really like when different ceilings of churches and such have this sort of ceiling art, like giving you the impression of the night sky and such, with all the stars and such. Really beautiful, especially with the reflections and such. Definitely really beautiful. Let me see. Then here's the altar. Also really beautiful. Let's hear all the art and such. And yeah, here's the different saints and such, that every hour from like 7 in the morning to 11 in the evening, every hour they pass through here the gates. And yeah, they're definitely a sight to behold. and a lot of people go to see them when that happens. But here's the figures of the saints themselves here in their resting position. And here's some very beautifully decorated, doors, like here. And here's some views of Prague, the old town square of Prague during the night. Unfortunately, not a lot can be seen that well, but yes, during the night. And here's the astronomical clock that is very, very famous in Prague. Like, it's the most known landmark of Prague, and it's really beautiful. It has a lot to it. Like, here it's about the constellations and such. And here's the horoscope. I also, unfortunately, since I went there in October again, I do have a picture of it from the day. But all the different elements from the clock itself and such are just really, really, really cool. And yeah, I'll be showing it again during the day. And yeah, this is from the other day, the next day, where I spotted some more of these Art Nouveau buildings that are just really beautiful. Like here, there's also a building called the Three Musketeers one. Don't know if it's this one. I'm not entirely sure. But here's St. George with the dragon again. I've just seen his figure a lot, but I like seeing it because the portrait of the dragon itself changes quite a lot from one to another, and it's quite interesting. And here's also some more medieval related stuff. And yeah, some more perspectives of this beautiful building. Like here's St. George again with the dragon slaying it. I do really like the portraits of the dragons themselves. Yeah. And this is next to the Jewish ghetto of Prague. It was also full of people. My God. And yeah. But here's this restaurant building from the Art Nouveau era. Here, really beautiful. It's black also. And yeah. And here's a Jewish clock. I don't think I've ever seen a Jewish or a Hebrew clock before in my life. So it's quite interesting to see one. And yeah. And as can be seen here, it was quite full of people. And as well, Prague, or the Czech Republic in general, is very, very known for marionettes. It has entire artisan shops dedicated to like making artisan marionettes and puppets. And it's just very, very known from the Czech Republic and Prague, and it's definitely something really charming that I really like about the Czech Republic in general. It's really charming. And here's this statue. And then I also later on, not right now, I went also to the Clementinum in Prague, which is a Baroque library, and they're also just really beautiful, which will be seen a bit later on. Here's the Charles Gate within Prague and the Charles Bridge within Prague, which is also a very, very known, very famous landmark of Prague. So it was also just full of people. But the gate itself, again, is just really beautiful. And yeah, here's also some views from the other side of the Vltava River of Prague. Just really beautiful. I definitely really, really appreciate how much of these historic stuff are still standing there in Prague. It's really astonishing just the sheer amount of beautiful historic buildings and such that remain in Prague without really being touched upon. And here's the gate with different coats of arms and such. Really beautiful. Like here also with saints and whatnot. Different coats of arms of, I actually don't know, maybe it is from quite some inquisitions, I actually don't really know. Here's also some ceiling art some medieval graffiti that actually this gate had, surprisingly enough. But yeah, and there's also a Jesus after. Here's also this really beautiful building right here. There's also an entire like castle, well, a palace that is well nowadays used for being a museum of art. I did go through it, but I didn't go inside of it. But that will also be shown later on. Yeah, it's also just really beautiful. I definitely do really like this style. Here's also with a battle scene. Yeah. And here's some different saints and such. There are multiple statues of different saints, and I don't know exactly what throughout the Charles Bridge. It's quite interesting, but there's also just many people. And here's a saint of, well, the Czech Republic and Prague, right here, that was thrown into a river because, yeah. And here's a good dog. Here's a good boy. Because of course it is. More statues of the Charles Bridge. Really charming. Here's also this with sinners suffering in hell in the prison here. And here's a Ottoman Turk just being here. And here's God being... supreme to them all, or I don't actually know exactly what. And yeah, here's the other side of the Charles Bridge, also with another beautiful gate. Really beautiful gate. Really astonishing. And then I also went to the Ethnographic Museum of Prague. Unfortunately, this was from February 2024. And during that time, only the temporary exhibitions were open, so I could only get to see them, unfortunately. But there was a scarf exhibition right here, which was just really beautiful with the type of decorations they made them with and such, like here. Also with some different folk patterns and such. Quite interesting, like can be seen here. And here's also, there was also a little part of the museum dedicated to the Roma people, or the Gypsies, which, yeah, as said before, also in Berlin, have kind of always been a very marginalized people that have also been living quite in isolation before and such, and yeah, to this day, there's just also a lot of bad stereotypes relating to them and so on. It's a quite long topic to go into. But yeah, here's a jacket and also an instrument relating to the Roma people. Here's some dresses and such. Well, folk dresses and such of Czech Republic in general. Here's also some well, to make shapes out of butter and cheese. And again, here's St. George for the millionth time with again the dragon. Really cool. And yeah, then there was also a hill, so I got to see a bit more of the views of Prague. And yeah, here it is. And then on the same hill there was also this magical cavern. Unfortunately, I didn't enter it, but it's a gallery with some quite interesting art from what I can see by the outside, but unfortunately I didn't get to see it by the inside. But it definitely seems quite cool. So yeah, there's that. And here's the National Theatre of Prague. What's this one? Another thing about the former Austro-Hungarian Empire is that throughout a lot of their churches, and especially churches and so on, they had these sort of decorated tiles upon their roofs that I just really appreciate. They can definitely be very beautiful, especially well, I've seen quite some of them and they're just really beautiful. I definitely do appreciate that at least from this former empire they did some art within, well, they did art with the roofs themselves, and it's just really beautiful. But yeah, here's some more perspectives of the National Theatre of Prague, really beautiful. And here's this monument. Um, I don't actually know to who, but yeah, it's to this knight or king or whoever he might have been. And yeah, different peoples of Prague and such. Really beautiful monument, definitely. Let's see. And here's some more views of Prague. Again, very beautiful. And here's the Charles Bridge right here. And here's also the St. Vitus Cathedral, in which I went inside in October 2024, so it will be brought up in a bit later. And yeah, here's some views from the Vltava River. And yeah, then I went inside, finally into the Clementinum in Prague, where there's a beautiful, very beautiful Baroque library. And yeah, here's the door from leading into this library. And yeah, here's some photos from the inside of the library. Unfortunately, you can't go really much inside because, well, it is historical and very sensitive material and all of that. But here's also some different astrological globus mundi that I definitely also really appreciate. I could also make a video about different types of these globus mundi, but I don't know. Tell me if that may be something I should do. But yeah, here's some more photos of the beautiful Clementinum. Also here from the ceiling art, in which they look to be just looking upon you from up there. And here's also an angel from the heavens and so on. Really beautiful. And here's the different globus mundi there are and such. And yeah, more of the ceiling art. Just really, really beautiful. And here are some philosophers discussing about philosophy, I guess. And yeah, it just looks again like they're from upon you and looking down on you from up there with the different intellectual things. Here's some different old books and such, well, relating to Czechia and to Prague. Different old books and such. I do really appreciate when there's these sort of illuminated manuscripts with this beautiful, beautiful art. I can also make a video about illuminated manuscripts and, well, illustrated books, historical books. So that may also be something that could be upcoming, but I don't know. But here's some about that. Yeah, here's some different astrological instruments and such, because the Clementinum, well, the towers of it were also used for different things related to astrology and such, because that was also quite popular within Prague in the past. So there's also something related to that. And yeah, here are some more perspectives of Prague from the tower within the Clementinum at night. And yeah. Now this is from October 2024, where again I went to Prague again. And yeah, this is from my little commercial gallery, which had these quite interesting glass arts with, don't actually know what they're called, but yeah, goat people. And yeah, I actually don't know if this is a Jewish stereotype. Hopefully there's nothing racist going on there, but I don't know. I digress. But yeah, here's some interesting animal people. And then there's also this statue just hanging there. So yeah. And then there's also more beautiful buildings with some beautiful art on them, like here. also with a medieval knight and such. Really beautiful. Again, again, they romanticized like being a knight, especially during the Middle Ages and so on. But I do really like this art. Really beautiful. Really beautiful that it's also still there. And again, here's another St. George. Find the many St. Georges. And again, here's also the old town hall now during the day. And it's still really beautiful by outside. Very, really beautiful, definitely. And yeah, here's also another well painted building within the old town square of Prague. Again, really beautiful. I just really appreciate just the sheer amount of just these really, really beautiful buildings that are there in Prague. Just very, very impressive. And yeah, let me see if I can go further. Here's the other perspective of it. And yeah, here's right next to the astronomical clock. But here's some very interesting things going on here. There's some creatures here, some lovely creatures and so on. Like here, whatever this is. Very, very cool. Definitely appreciate them being there. Also here with the door. They're also here with the door. Some other creatures. You just have to spot them. Like down here. Appreciate them being there. They're always there. And yeah, here's the astronomical clock. Now during the day, thankfully. And yeah, here you can better spot the many details of it. And yeah, there's definitely also creatures here. So lovely. They're there. And here you also have death itself. Yeah, very beautiful. And here different constellations and so on. Nice. And here's more the clock below. Some more details of it. Really nice. Yeah, and here's the other perspective of it. Well, the tower within the old town hall and all that. Cool. More coats of arms also there. And yeah, this is from the old town square within Prague. Here's some more of the beautiful buildings within it. Also here with some more griffin creatures. Lovely. And here's another beautiful painted building. There's just so many in Prague that it's just really impressive. Like here also with San Venceslas. And yeah, lovely. I just really also like the art style of it. Amazing. Also here with some animals and such. It's just really nice to just look at the details of it. And yeah. And then I went to the Prague Castle, right, well, under it, because it's on a hill. There's the Senate of the Czech Republic, and there's also some very nice ceiling art here. Just the ceilings many times are just the best part of it, but at the end, your neck is gonna hurt from just looking at it. But it's really nice, like here with different motives and such. Like here. And yeah, then I went up to the Prague Castle, and here are some more perspectives of Prague in general. Then yeah, this is from the Prague Castle. There's the Golden Lane there, which is a set of houses where different types of people once upon a time inhabited these houses and such. So you can see a bit about who inhabited them and such. And yeah, they portray the houses from those times. And here's the devil, the different peoples. Here's a fortune teller. Here's the different types of things the fortune teller had. Like definitely the cards. Here's a film fanatic that during the communist times, well, played different films that actually weren't really permitted during those times here, with different types of film fanatics and such. Also, just really nice to know that there's these people that really appreciate films and such. And yeah, here's all the the film roles he had. Film roles everywhere, like also here, and here, and here. And here's where he played the films with this projector and onto here. Then there were also some armors from the Middle Ages and such. Some quite interesting armories like this one, but especially this one, where you can really say that you're a bird. And here's some helmets, some interesting helmets, like this one up here. And here are some shields with different motives, like a knight praying, and again, probably St. George, and a Medusa. And here they really went with the Spartan theme for for this armor set. And yeah, more shields and such, different motives. And yeah, also this one was a painted parts of the armor set. Here's a torture room, because of course if it's something medieval, the torture room was never falter. So of course there's torture room where they could torture you with the most insane methods possible and weirdest ones. Like here's this chair full of spikes, and you will die asphyxiated slowly from it, and as painfully as possible. Very nice, very family friendly. Then here's some alchemy related rooms. Well, this one in the basement, because Prague is also very known for alchemy. It was quite a center for alchemy, and yeah, there's quite some stuff related to that in Prague. And here's this room related to it. Also here with another Globus Mundi. And yeah. And here's for making, well, candles and such. And yeah, here's, well, a lady's room from the early 1900s, I suppose. Also quite cool how it's decorated, and also with all the flowers and such, and of course your Jesus. And then and of course there's a Starbucks within the vicinity of the Prague Castle, because of fucking course there is. And then there's quite interesting building right next to the St. Vitus Cathedral. Again, I just really like the rooftops of many of these old buildings within the former Austro-Hungarian Empire, because of the decorations made to them, like here. Very beautiful, really nice. And here's some cool creatures, some cool small gargoyles attached to it, with a crown and all. Just cool creatures. And yeah, here's the St. Vitus Cathedral with many gargoyles and many creatures here. And then also the roofs, as can be seen here, they also have these sort of patterns and such that I just really appreciate. And yeah, here's the cathedral from the outside. Here's different types of gargoyles and such, being of different animals or different things in general. Sometimes it's kind of hard to figure out what precisely it is. Sometimes it's also of like portrayals of people from those times, or of sinners, or I don't know really. Like here, it's hard to really figure out. But yeah, here's some more lovely creatures. And here's also a completely black dragon. I appreciate it, but it's quite lonely up there. And it's completely black, but I love it. And also here's some quite interesting doors, also with some nice decoration with creatures and different types of animals. And yeah, here's more of the gargoyles, also with a tower. And yeah, this is from the front door of the cathedral, and then I went inside of it. It's just so beautifully decorated. I just really like these Gothic or neo-Gothic cathedrals. They're really something else, especially with all the decorations made to them and the different patterns and such applied to them. Like also here with the crystals, well, yeah, with the windows and such, that afterwards from the inside it reflects in different colors, and it's really beautiful. And yes, that's really stunning. That can be seen here. And then I went inside of the cathedral, and it's also really beautiful from the inside. Like here's some more crystal window art. Here's also some quite interesting door with also some really cool creatures. Like here's a bird, but I don't know what the hell this thing is. But it's cool. I appreciate it. And here's some different coats of arms. And here's definitely I think my favorite room within the cathedral, or my favorite chapel within the cathedral. All of the walls and such are completely painted around with, I think, the history of maybe the saints or whoever represents it. Really astonishing. Like here can be seen the life story of maybe him or different people as well. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, it's really stunning, and you can just be looking at this for hours, maybe, because it's just really amazing. And yeah, then also from the other perspective, where here's the tomb and such. And yeah, here's more perspective of the different arts. I don't know what the hell is happening here and such of it. Really beautiful, of course. And also the door itself with a coat of arms. So I don't know if it's the Holy Roman Empire or what. I'm not entirely sure. And well, here's something happening. And yeah, also here's some different coats of arms of, I don't know if really other cities or towns, but it does say so. And it's different regions actually, because some of them are to recognize, like here's Alicia. And yeah, it's different regions from what it seems, but I don't recognize all of them. Here's a more beautiful window art. And yeah, also completely decorated with, well, the saints and your Jesuses and your Marys and whatnot, but really cool. Also this, I just really also like it when there's something else than Jesus and Mary, because I'm a bit tired of seeing them, because I've already seen them quite a lot, to say the least. But here's something else, well, for the tomb and such, for a royal tomb. But these tombs can also just be really astonishing, really beautiful. So they can say, yeah, we're richer in our death than you are in your life, I guess. I also just really appreciate this pattern here, quite cool. And yeah, more of the history of Jesus and his crucifixion, because of course you have to portray him always when it was the most painful moment of his life, because we are very violent creatures and we've always been. Jesus Christ. Yeah, here's also some more beautiful sculptures and such, more coats of arms of other regions and such. I just don't really recognize all of them, but here's Dalmatia, which is, well, nowadays it more so represents like Romania. And yeah, here's also from Hungary and Castile. Here's also some related to Spain, and here's also the coat of arms of Bohemia, which is the white lion. And here's also this thing with different coats of arms that are ingrained to it, and like you can sense them. You can really sense the textures of them and such. Really beautiful. And then here's someone reaching out for the candle. Really beautiful. Here's also I suppose these coats of arms are kind of related to the Inquisition, but I'm not entirely sure actually, because I don't really recognize them. But this hat in specific do really remind me of the related to the Inquisition, but I'm not sure. If someone knows, please tell me. But here's some more beautiful stained glass, incredibly beautiful. Just wow. And yeah, also more of the ceilings that are also painted. I love when also the ceilings within the cathedrals and such, which I've actually seen in quite some places that were actually before part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, like in Vienna, in Krakow, and in Budapest, have some incredibly beautiful churches and cathedrals. And of course, this cathedral, St. Vitus Cathedral, is definitely also one of them that has some really, really beautiful, incredibly beautiful ceiling art and such. It's such a pleasure to see them. More stained glass. And yeah, here's more of the chronicles of saints and yeah, of San Albertus. And here's an altar. Also just really beautiful how they make this sort of plants and such just being part of it. Incredible. And yeah, here's this thing that I showed before from this perspective. Incredibly beautiful. And well, here's an angel killing a demon. That also has to be part of it, I guess. So yeah. And I actually don't really know what these things are for, because they're always part of like, especially older, well, also modern, I think, churches and cathedrals. But I just can't really figure out what exactly they're for, because I've never really seen them being used. So if someone knows what they're for, well, tell me. I also do really like this, where the tomb is, right here. Beautiful, of course. And yeah, here's this stained glass and art itself, where it reflects in different colors and such, and with the sun it's just astonishing, as always. Really astonishing. And yeah, here's some more perspectives from the outsides of, again, the cathedral. Incredibly beautiful. Like here you can also really see like these patterns that are also made to the roofs. I just really appreciate that they also made details and art to the roofs themselves, instead of just leaving them be as normally as the case. Because I mean, the roofs are also part of them, and yeah, I just really appreciate that they also did that to these here. That's beautiful. And yeah, more things from it. Astonishing. And yeah, here's also some more Jesus stuff. Like, yeah, here's hell and the apocalypse, or maybe not. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not the most knowledgeable on Bible lore. Sorry. But yeah, here's Jesus coming, the second coming of Jesus. And then I went to the Strahov monastery. That is also incredible. There's a bunch. There's some Baroque libraries in there. Very, very beautiful. So I went inside there, and there's also these illuminated manuscripts. Again, I could make a video about just illuminated manuscripts there. They've become something that I just really, really enjoy a lot. Just looking at the images of them and such, because, sorry, I don't know how to read this. But related to the images, because, well, the normal people many of them could neither read. I just really like the details of them, like what's happening here. Very, very nice to just look at them and appreciate the details of them, like here's a fight happening, and yeah, so on. Here's also a mini Bible, because you never know when you have to use it. So it's always convenient to have a Bible in the size of your pocket. And here's a book on new lands. So yeah, about the Americas. And here's some descriptions of one of these Baroque libraries there is within the Zahov Monastery, which I will get to now. Right now, here's the Philosophy Hall, one of these libraries, incredibly beautiful, of course. I just also really like the whole wooden arts, or wooden textures, and, well, the use of wood in general within these libraries. It gives a nice feeling to it. I don't really know how to express it, so to say. And here's also the ceiling art, because, of course, if you're really gonna be one of these beautiful Baroque libraries, you need an incredibly beautiful ceiling. And of course, here it is relating to, well, different things. Of course, there's some Jesus stuff, but also the relating to other stuff. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, here it is. More perspectives of it. Then there's this creature, this lovely creature right here in the Hall of Curiosities, because of course you're gonna need that. And here's some, well, clothing, some boots, helmets from like the 1600s. And here's some more Globus Mundi related to constellations, but there's also some of the geographical map. But I just really like it when it's about the constellations and such, because there's creatures in there, so it's just really nice. Like here, really beautiful, and here, and then there's more of them, like with the constellations and such. Beautiful. And here's a book in relation to Tycho Brahe, who was a Danish astronomer, and yeah, he's very known in regards to that. And I guess he was also here in Prague during those times, because again, Prague was also quite a hotspot related to astronomy and also alchemy in the past. And here's a Globus Mundi from the Arab world, so to say. I've actually never seen a Globus Mundi, in Arabic before. So it's just really, really interesting to see to see it in general, how it's really made, because I've only really seen them in like the Latin script. Yeah, it's just quite interesting to see from the Arab perspective of the world, how the world is portrayed. But unfortunately, I can't really read it. But it's interesting nonetheless. Just feels a bit less organized, so to say. But I've never seen an Arab Globus Mundi, so really, really interesting. And here's some more constellations and such. And here's the other Baroque library. I don't really remember the name of this hall in specific, but of course, it's definitely beautiful as well. How not? And yeah, here's the ceilings of it and such. Well, I think it's the astrology room, because here also the ceilings and such, like especially here, it is in relation to astronomy and such. But definitely beautiful. You can just be in the place and just really, really appreciate all these ceilings and such, because they're incredible. Really, they are. And also, you can also get some glimpses of the daily lives of many of the people during these times and such. And also some heavenly scenes, because of course you need that. Very beautiful. Very, very beautiful indeed. And here's also the church related to the monastery. It's this one, also really beautiful. And it also has a lot of wall and ceiling art related to the holy, to your Jesus and all that. And yeah, then I went a bit around Prague again because it's really beautiful. And here's the presidential house. I don't really know if it has a specific name, but here it is. And yeah, it also has some beautiful decorations to it, like violence and the coronation of the lion, of the powerful, of the almighty royal lion here by the angels themselves. And also the coronation of the mighty eagle. And yeah, here's this palace I was referring to before. I do really like this type of building art from the outside. It's also definitely very astonishing. And yeah, I didn't have time to go inside of it, but it is an art museum nowadays. There's definitely really a lot to Prague, and I love that. Really beautiful, of course. And yeah, the building by the outside is definitely also really something to behold. I just haven't really seen much of this type of building art before Prague, so I definitely find it very interesting. Like here I can also find it. And yeah, so I just really went from the outsides of the building and such to just appreciate it, because actually this is like sculpted into the building. It isn't just painted. And it's just really beautiful. I also just like the black and white colors for it. Lovely. Definitely very lovely. Very lovely. Indeed very lovely. And yeah, here's a bit more from it. Definitely really cool. And yeah, then there's also a bit more of this sort of art just related to other stuff. Right in front of the palace, like this art right here. And yeah, well, it portrays different stuff. I don't actually know precisely what, but it's lovely regardless. And here's the palace from below. Here it is. And here's one of these artisan puppet shops. There are multiple of them in Prague. And yeah, it's definitely something just really charming about the Czech Republic in general. I just really like that they have been specializing in puppet art, and yeah, these whole puppet workshops that are around. They're just really cool, and the styles for the puppets themselves also have their own charm. Like I found like this one with one of the typical Czech folk dresses. And yeah, the art styles for them are just really unique for the Czech Republic. So I definitely do really appreciate and love the country for this art. And here's some more of these puppets. Really cool. It's definitely very charming here with other characters and such. I do also really like their dresses and such. And yeah, they're all handmade and so on. Or at least most of them. And yeah, it's something really charming. So yeah, definitely give Czech puppetry a try. Like here's also some more of that. Here with some more folk characters and princesses and all of that. And then I went to it's a quite small alchemy museum in Prague. Well, alchemy and magic museum in Prague, because again, Prague was very known for alchemy back in those days. And yeah, this is the restaurant part of the museum, where the walls and such I do really like how they decorated the walls and such to fit in with this theme of the alchemy and such. Like here's different elements of it and different things related to alchemy, and I just really like especially the art of it. And yeah, then there's also this that I have no idea how to read, and this, and also different different constellations relating to a horoscope, and this, beautiful, and this, and this, whatever this is supposed to be exactly, and also this, the fishman, and this, and also this, and this. Really beautiful art. And then I went inside of the museum. Again, it's quite small, but it's more so related to different times within the history of Prague and related to alchemy and so on, and different people related to alchemy. And yeah, Tycho Brahe was one of them that came here in those times, also related to that, and astronomy, of course, different rooms and so on. And yeah, and then there's also this circle, the circle of hell, and yeah, something is happening here. And then, well, during the night I went to a restaurant that had a medieval theming. I couldn't really get downstairs because it required a reservation and whatnot. So I ate upstairs, and it was quite quiet, at least compared to downstairs where it was full of people. And there were also some spectacles related to the Middle Ages and such. Quite cool. I did get a glimpse of that because I was allowed to just go downstairs for a bit and just see it quite a bit. So yeah, here's the part upstairs of the restaurant, and here's the part downstairs, and they've definitely also been using their candles for quite a lot, to say the least. Here's the part downstairs where it really gives this medieval pub vibes, really cool. And here's also again candles just being very, very used, to say the least. And yeah, here they also play music and such related to the Middle Ages. There was also some sort of theater thing happening right there. And yeah, then I also went the next day. Then I went to the National Museum of the Czech Republic, which is this one, and of course, related. It's also a very, very beautifully decorated building. Of course, it has to be. And of course, here's your Saint Vincestas again. But before that, I had to go to the train station, to the main train station of Prague, to just throw my luggage out, basically for a couple of hours. And within the main train station of Prague, there's a modern part of the train station, which is really nothing really spectacular. It's what it is what it is. But then there's also the historical part of the train station, which is a bit more obscured because you don't really get too often there. But it's this part, and it's just also really, really beautiful. Like can be seen here with different coats of arms of different parts or different cities and such. Here's also regarding the Roman Empire. And yeah, because everyone wanted to be the new Roman Empire in the past. Really beautiful. And also a restaurant from the older part of the main train station of Prague. And here's also the outside of the main train station of Prague, the historical part or the older part. And it's just really beautiful. Incredibly beautiful. It can be seen here. And yeah, this is also from 1918. Like when really the train was also the rage and such. Really beautiful, definitely. And yeah, here's more of the outsides of now the National Museum of of the Czech Republic, of the Kingdom of Bohemia, as it says there. But yeah, they really did a lot of effort. They really made all these older buildings and such with a lot of effort and a lot of artistry and that. Unfortunately, that's really not the case anymore. Really, unfortunately, nowadays it's just more about saving costs and just being as bland as possible, basically. But just look at this. This is from the inside of the National Museum of Czechia. And yeah, here you can definitely see just how people really decorated and made the most out of these buildings of the past. But again, unfortunately, that's just really not the case anymore. But just really look at how beautiful it is and how much pride they took in making these buildings as really beautiful and astonishing as possible. Just really incredible. Yeah, more perspectives from the inside of the museum. Like here with the staircase, just really quite incredible. And here's some different portraits of different castles in Czechia, because well, there's a lot of castles in the Czech Republic and also in Slovakia, and they're kind of really known for that. So yeah, here's some different castles within Czechia. And here's some more grotesques, of course. Lovely. Yeah, I could really make a video about just these sorts of grotesques that are like in the walls and such, in the ceilings and such. They're really beautiful. Like also here with the creatures and so on. Lovely. And here's a room, a very, very beautiful room. Yeah, that was, well, had decorations for multiple times in the history of the Czech Republic. Like, again, from those times that they threw their politicians out of the window. Good times. Here's also the ceiling of it. Nice. Here's from like the Middle Ages, I suppose. Which I'm not entirely sure, but seems that way. Neat. Again, from the times that those politicians really went out of the window when the citizens were satisfied. And here's also with the doors and such. They just really made the most out of everything they had. They had in regards to these architectural projects and such. And it's something that we still really appreciate nowadays. There's some more castles within Czechia. Also, yeah, this, well, in the lower part, more castles. And then there's also this part with, well, different types of work with also armor and weapons and such. And it was also quite common to like make paintings and such of like kids doing adults work, so to say, like kind of here, but not the best example of it. But I've also seen that quite a lot. Like here, for example, I think it's a better example, like being a wine master. Okay, maybe not the best example because here's just children, well, rather being curious about things, it kind of seems like. But yeah, here's from now the exhibitions within the National Museum. Here's some tiles from, well, the Middle Ages and such, from the stoves that were, well, these type of decorated tile stones were really quite sought after in the Middle Ages because they were also a symbol of status again. But it's also just really interesting to look at them because it also portrays like different stuff from these times, like different types of people from those ages, like the knights, different coats of arms, of course, with creatures and such. Interesting. Yeah, more tile stones. Also some with quite, well, interesting stuff on them, like this one. Or a king lion eating a dragon. And here's one of these aquamanals, but this time it isn't just a lion. Here's with, well, different types of creatures just combined into them, like a griffin, like a person, and other two faces that can't be really seen. That's still interesting. And here's one of these gorgeous illuminated manuscripts. Really, really quite well preserved and such. Interesting. With a with probably Bible or something like that. Here's also some more of these older books and such. More of them. Many of them with a Bible and such. More, well, tile stones. And here's what was it called? I don't really remember the name for this script, but this is preceding the Cyrillic script. So this is actually the predecessor of what the language is of Bulgarian. It comes actually, the Cyrillic script comes actually from Bulgaria, and it's, well, it is the alphabet in which multiple languages are written on, especially like the Eastern Slavic countries' languages, and also expanding to more, well, due to reasons. But here's the predecessor to it, and it's a bit quite more circular, so to say, than it. But in Czech, they don't write in Cyrillic; they write in the Latin script because they're a Catholic country, even though they're very atheist nowadays. But it's just quite interesting to just look at what came before it. Quite interesting, even though I have no idea what the hell is written there. And here's the alphabet for it, or how it was before, more to say. And yeah, here's some more Bibles and such. More tile stones. And here's some old shields again, with these coats of arms of the cities, and, well, Prague City, not the most creative one again. More of these stuffs. And yeah, more of these tile stones now with, again, spot your St. George. I have no idea how many of them I've seen, and also here San Ventistas, I suppose. Here's some more illuminated manuscripts, as people back then, most of them couldn't read, so to portray these sort of things, to portray what the text is supposed to say, they painted it, because it's just easier to find out what the hell you're supposed to say, or what you're saying by looking at the pictures, more or less. But I don't really know what's happening here. Yeah, you're violent. You've always been violent. God damn it. Some more old books. A Czech Bible. And yeah, here's again from the courtly life, from the political life. Again, one of these portraits, and again, also seen within Hamburg. It just seems to be a very common thing that, well, people in courts and that worked in courts, just they all really had this type of uniform before. It was quite a tradition throughout basically all of Europe, I suppose, or at least many parts of Europe. So yeah, and again, here's your St. George number, I don't know how many, but quite cool. I just like how the dragon normally is portrayed, especially. But I could actually just make a video about St. George's, and all of them are just St. George's. Here's how, like, well, how you make imprint before into cards. Specifically, this is for cards. Back in those days, you just made it on a wooden or a metal block, and then you, well, put the paint and such, and just well, put it into the cards that can be seen here. That was how it was done before with playing cards. Here's a stained glass with something happening with violence. Some sinner was put into the chimney, I guess, into the fire. Here are some more older shields, really quite interesting, the arts on them. Here's this with the inbreds coats of arms. Here's a mini Bible with, or I actually don't know what exactly it is. But here's hell. So yeah, there's that. Here's that saint that got thrown into the river. Here he is. And here is how he got to be a saint. Because of course we had to do that. We're definitely not a very violent species. Here's some views of Prague. Here's an executioner sword. The main way to differentiate between a normal sword and an executioner sword is that the executioner sword is always it doesn't have a point at the end of it. So like here is circular, and yeah, that's how you can really differentiate. And also here it has some little biblical related engravings to it. Here's a scene of hell. Interesting, with some really cool creatures. I also really quite want to make a video on, well, portraits of hell and such, of those inspired, especially from like Dante's Inferno, because from there have been a lot of these sort of paintings, also of the apocalypse and such, and I just really love them. They're very very unique, and I just really like to spot all of the weird ass creatures that are in them. So if that's something that could be that would be something you would like to, then tell me. Here's some books about how to torture people, very nice. Here's something chivalrous. I actually don't know what this is, but yeah, here you can see riders. And yeah, here's some weapons, but again, I do really like how many of these weapons before were decorated with some quite interesting engravings before, like here, and especially when there is some animals and other types of critters in them. That's really cool, besides what the weapon is for. Here's some more of these weapons. And here's a Laterna Magica. This was preceding cinema. So you had this type of scope where they projected the image that are these into a flat surface. And yeah, this was kind of the predecessor to cinema and that, or more so animation, because yeah, these were like drawn images, not really photos. And here's some advertisements from the 19th century or beginnings of the 20th century. I do also really like them. They're really quite interesting, especially when the advertisements and such, they were pretty much all hand painted and so on. And yeah, then here's also some interiors from like schools and other stuff from, the last years of the 19th century and the beginnings of the 20th century. And it's also quite interesting to see like how the kids in these doll houses were dressed and such, and also the walls and such, quite different and quite interesting nonetheless. Here's also some press in the Czech language from those times. And yeah, here's some more decorations of the museum itself, some more of the grotesques and such, really beautiful again. As said a lot before, just really beautiful. And yeah, tell me if maybe a video about these types of grotesque could be a thing I would be making. I'm not sure, but it is a possibility. And yeah, here's some more of the castles of the Czech Republic. And yeah, it seems like pretty much it. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video. And yeah, well, like and subscribe if you want to. And I also have a Ko-fi channel in case you want to support me financially, in case you want and of course can. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this time around. Hope you've enjoyed and see you hopefully next time. Bye.